Alright, so today we're going to be talking about percent change. Now, as we're looking at percent change, one of the most important things that we need to do is first we need to find the amount of change. Because in order to find a percent of change, you need to know how much whatever you're looking at has changed. And so the first thing we'll do exactly that. We'll take the final amount and we'll subtract the original amount, and that will give us the change. Now, it has to be final minus the original, because if I have 20 pounds of cookies right now and I have lunch and now I have 10 pounds of cookies, the change needs to show that I went from 20 to 10, which means it decreases. If I do 20 minus 10, that's going to give me a positive 10, which should show a positive change. So I need to do the final amount, which is 10 pounds, minus the original amount, which is 20 pounds. So 10 minus 20 will give me a negative 20, showing my negative change. Second, what you'll do is you'll take that change and divide it by the original amount, therefore telling you the percentage of change. All right? Now, the important thing is if you want a percent change, then you just set it equal to percent change over 100. You can just get the decimal and turn it into a percent later if you wanted, but that's the basic idea behind it. Okay? So this essentially is the equation that you can use, is the final minus the original over the original equals percent change over 100. I'm going to use that in the next couple of videos. I'll give you a couple of examples, all right? So here we go. The number of cruise ships in North America increased 18% from 2000 to 2005. If there were 192 ships in 2005, how many were there in 2000? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly what was shown in that previous video. So we're going to go final minus original divided by the original, and that needs to be equal to the percent change over 100. Now, this, of course, is a proportion, and so we should be able to solve it using our knowledge of proportions. Now, if I look at this, I say, okay, the final number of cruise ships is the number of cruise ships in 2005. That's 192. And then I'm going to subtract the original number. So how many were there originally in 2000? Well, that's what I don't know. So it's going to be minus x over the original number, which will again be x, equals the percent change. So 18%. It's gone up by 18% over 100. And so from this point, I can now cross multiply and solve. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I'll have 18x equals 100 times 192, which is 19200, minus 100x. I'll go ahead and add the 100 to the other side. And I will have 118x equals 19200. And I'm going to go ahead and just divide that on my calculator, which I have right here. You can't see it, but I'm doing it right now. You shouldn't believe me. You should be doing it on your calculator right there. And what I get is 162.7. Now, I can't really have 162.7 ships. Either it's a ship going on the sea or it's not. So I'm going to take that 162.7. and I'm going to turn it into 163 ships. Okay? And that was the original amount, which was the number of ships in 2000. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's look at another example. Okay? Brittany is purchasing wire and beads to make jewelry. Her merchandise is $28.62 before tax. If the tax is 7.25% of the total sales, what is the final cost? Okay, so again, I have an original cost, I have a markup, which is a percent change, and then I'm looking for a final cost. So let's see how this sets up with the equation that we talked about. So again, final minus original over original equals the percent change over 100. So the final cost is what it's asking for. So that's going to be x minus the original cost, the $28.62, divided by the original cost, $28.62, equals the percent change, 7.25, over 100. Now notice this 7.25 over 100 is just the percent, turned into a decimal. You could put this whole thing as 0.0725, but then you wouldn't have a portion anymore. It's nice to have it this way because now you can just cross multiply. So I'm going to have 100x minus 2862 equals, and again I'm going to do this on my calculator, so 7.25 times 28.62, which I got 207.495. So I'm going to write that whole thing down, 207.495. Hopefully you checked me on your calculator to make sure that I've done it correctly. Now I need to get the x by itself, so I'm going to add 2862. So I got 100x equals 3069.495. And then from there, I'm going to divide by the 100, which means that x equals 3069.495. So I'm just going to go 3070. Okay. And that would be the final cost. Now notice that that is bigger because it was an increase, a positive percent change, so it should be an increasing price. And it's not by a whole lot. It's less than 10%, so it shouldn't be a big deal. All right, let's look at one more. This time is a discount. Jassim has made the honor roll, and as such, he gets a 20% discount on his car insurance. How about that? Normally, he pays 240 reals per month. How much will he pay now? Now, there's a couple of ways to do this, but in keeping with what we've been doing, I'm going to show you how to use the formula, because sometimes the shortcuts that people want to do don't work. In this case, it probably will, but in most cases, it doesn't. So we're just going to go ahead and do the final minus the original over the original equals the percent change over 100. Now notice I didn't write out the whole thing anymore. You shouldn't either. You should get used to what's on top, what's on bottom, and you probably won't need to write out the whole thing, but I am writing enough to remind myself. So the final cost, that's how much he pays now. I don't know how much that is. Let's just leave it as F. You can make it X if you want. And then we go the original, which was 240, and divide by 240. And then we'll go percent, which is the 20% discount. Now notice it's a discount, so I'm going to make it a negative 20 over 100 to show that I am being discounted. So from there, we just cross multiply and solve. And so we go 240 times negative 20, which will be negative 4800, and 100 times this, which I'm going to go ahead and put in parentheses just because a lot of students will forget to distribute this. And so it's not just 100 times 240, it's also 100 times F. This way I will remember. So I'll have negative 4800 equals 100F minus 24000. And so then we'll add the 2400. And then we will divide by the 100, which gives us a final cost of 192 reals, which is a discount of that original one. All right, so that is all for today, and good luck.